Welcome to 7.2's mid-week review of the rubric. This is a chance for me to sit and actually explain a couple of things that need to be included in the paper and how the process goes for evaluation. A lot of times people with the initial draft have some confusion because they lose points for areas that they feel, that they've done, but at the same time aren't present. So first things first, always remember, the rubric is the guide. I, as an evaluator for Southern New Hampshire, am only to look for these items, and if they meet the standard of the row, then I award that particular standards level being met, whether it be needs improvement or proficient, or in some cases exemplary, like you can see with the thesis statement. It really just kind of depends on how the college has assigned the point values and the weights to the overall project and what they want to see in each part. So we're going to go through this line by line and just kind of talk about what I'm looking for. With the introduction overview section, I'm looking for an introduction to the topic you're about to discuss. There should be some sort of focus on the article that you have evaluated in the paper this term. If you aren't talking about what's going on within the article itself, if you're not naming the article, the author, and going into some detail about what's going on within that, you're going to find yourself very quickly in the not evident component, because I need to see those elements to be able to actually judge whether or not it's present or not. Needs improvement is a little bit better. It means essentially that you have actually started including some of those elements, but you don't really go in depth enough. Let's say you have maybe part of a sentence that's dedicated to an overview, but that's about all you do, is maybe a sentence or so, and it's not really all that in-depth, it's not all that focused. It could use a little bit more work and strengthening. If, however, you have, say, 2 sentences is a pretty good number, of overview, talking about what's going on within the article itself and who wrote it, then you're going to get the 100% proficient every single time. That's what they're looking for. With the thesis statement, I'm looking for that to be the final sentence of the introductory paragraph, even though that doesn't cost any points if it's not located there. That's where it needs to be if you're going to be doing well in future classes, and that's the reason I flag it if it's not. Now, with this one, we're just going to simplify it. In Module 4.3, there is a thesis assignment. That thesis assignment allows you to write the only thesis that will get 100% on this line. For many of you that lost the points, you have no thesis statement, or you do not have the thesis statement that the university is looking for. I realize for some of you, you may be a more advanced writer, and so using the listing method where it is claim followed by the supporting ideas may be something that you feel like you've moved past. That doesn't matter. In Southern New Hampshire, it's all about doing what they expect and what they've asked for. They gave you a very concrete thesis statement in 4.3. We went through that. Several of you had to go back and do revisions on that. As long as you're following the template they provided, where you're focusing on claim and supporting ideas in one sentence, then you should land at the 100%. More often than not, it really winds up being a case whether it's there or it's not there at all. In the cases where it's sort of there, usually either the claim is present or the claim and one supporting idea is present. But those are the combinations that work. It's part of it's there, but it's not all there. And so I can award that partial credit in either proficient or needs improvement area. But by and large, most people are going to lose all the points on this line because they're just not going to have the Southern New Hampshire thesis statement with the explicitly stated claim and then supporting ideas. If you got zeroed out on this with the draft that you submitted earlier, go back to 4.3, write the 4.3 thesis statement exactly as they've mapped it out for you, and please don't include the guide little parentheses and stuff with it, make it an actual sentence you're wording, and then use that, and you should get these points without a problem. The body paragraph has 2 different categories for it. Main idea. That means I'm looking for an executed conversation that's taking place with a topic sentence for each of the body paragraphs. I'm looking for some level of supporting evidence within the paragraph itself, usually a quote in sentence 2. And then I'm looking for you to have a conversation about that quote. I mean, how does that quote prove the argument in sentence 1 to be correct and accurate? If you do that, you're going to hit 100% every single time. The ones that wind up being lesser points are the ones where they will have some element of that, but typically the quote is placed way too late to actually be analyzed, or they're putting too many quotes in it, and none of them are being analyzed, but there is an attempt to meet this criteria, and that winds up in the middle two options. Just depends on the level of proficiency they demonstrate at that moment in time. Doesn't attempt the criterion. These are people that either A, don't have paragraphs, or B, the paragraphs have absolutely nothing to do with supporting the argument that was established within the thesis statement. It's focusing on the wrong thing, like perhaps it's focusing on the theme or idea that the article is exploring and not the article itself, when this is a critical analysis of the article itself. Next line, supporting the thesis. I'll be dead honest, this one's pretty straightforward. I mean, if main idea is going well and you're getting the top points in that, as long as you have a thesis statement that's correct and they're all syncing up, 100% should happen every single time. Where you wind up with a 0% is you didn't write a thesis statement. Then you're not supporting a thesis because there is none. And when I warned y'all previously with the thesis statement of the importance to get it right, because there's a lot of areas where you lose points, this is the second area where you will lose a ton of points on this essay if you do not have a correct thesis statement. Now, the other mid-range points are kind of hand-in-hand with the main idea. If the main idea and structure of the essay itself isn't in sync enough to be able to thoroughly lead the conversation argument that's trying to be made, then usually this line will lose the points as well. Because even if you look down just right here in this mid-range column, it says support thesis with credible evidence throughout body paragraphs. So you maybe have evidence, but it's not really analyzed, it's not packed well, and it doesn't have a really good amount of conversation. It's really helping to strengthen the main idea. Well, you're probably going to be mid-range in both of these if that happens. Let's talk conclusion. The conclusion should be shorter than all the other paragraphs. I know they're asking you to do a lot apparently with this, but it's really not that much. For the summarization conclusion, restating your thesis statement almost gets you to where you need to do. You could bar the thesis statement straight, but at the same time, you could restate the thesis statement, take it one step further and all by, directly connecting it to the conclusions presented within the body paragraphs. For evidence, what I'm looking for you to do is to hearken back to the information that was provided in the essay itself to finish and finalize your final conclusion, your final thought on the conversation, the topic of analyzing this particular article. If you've done that, then you'll have met that particular standard. Truthfully, the conclusion standard can be met with 2 sentences, and that'd be it. 3 would be probably my maximum with this, and it really is a criterion that's pretty easy to get all the points on. This one really is just a matter of, are you wrapping things up by kind of restating what it is that was covered within the article itself, and how that evidence and information leads you to the conclusion, the answer that you have arrived at the end of the piece. Now, there are 2 final ones here that are listed here. We have the articulation of response. I'll be honest, this one typically doesn't lose any points. The only way it will is if there are so many grammatical errors in the piece itself that it makes it unreadable. If I can't make through your sentences, I can't understand what it is you're trying to communicate to me, well then I'm going to have to take points on this line. But typically, this one won't actually go down unless there's some massive issues and all taking place with the paper. Like, again, lack of clarity with your use of grammar, and it could even be structure. You could have like one body paragraph that goes 3 pages. Well, that's just not going to cut it. That's a big, massive issue. You may have paragraphs that don't have 5 to 7 sentences in length. That's a problem. That means you don't actually have a paragraph. Those are things that we could lose points in articulation or response. Citations and attributions. This is where you just have your works cited entry and make certain that you're doing in-text citations whenever you quote or paraphrase from the source. So just to reiterate and go down. Max points and overview. Make certain that you have a sentence or 2 actually talking about what was covered within the article that you're studying. Make certain you use the article's title and the author's name. It's necessary to get that. For the thesis statement, have the 4.3 thesis statement done correctly, and it be present here, and I'll give you 100%. Main ideas in the body paragraphs, organize them with a topic sentence, text evidence in sentence 2, and then analyze what that text evidence is saying and how it proves your point from the topic sentence. and that will get that one easily. And because you've done that and you have the thesis statement, it's an easy lock for 100% on the support thesis statement line. Conclusion, start off by restating your thesis statement or reminding the person about what it is you just got done discussing, and then have a clear connection to how the research and the information that you provided proves a very clear-cut case and all to support your argument from the thesis statement. Make certain that your piece is readable and the paragraphing is done correctly, and make certain you cite everything that you have. If you do these things, then getting 125 points on this particular task is not unimaginable. Additionally, remember that the way things work, the points increase as we get towards the end. So if you get this right, you can make up for some areas in the past where you had bumps in your work. So I hope this helps, and good luck.